what the question gives. We are given in the storyline, okay, if interest rate were to go down, it comes together with a fall in output. To me, I emphasize on the word at the same time. It's a pair of outcomes. Interest rate drop at the same time as a rise in output is consistent with a shift of AS curve. So either AD or AS have shifted, resulting interest rate and output to drop. So I sketch my answer first. I think through, right? I will do this kind of thing. I'll sketch in pencil, right, or in ink first. And I think carefully. I'm at point A. I1, Y1. So I look at my top diagram. How can I have interest rates drop with output increase? Okay, sorry, fall in interest rate at the same time increase in output. When can that happen? Look at your diagram. If you map out your I2 with your Y2, it can only happen with LM shifting down. Alright, it can only happen with LM shifting down. So I check through. Okay, how can LM shift down? Either M increase, and this is expansionary monetary policy. But in this case, this is invalid because the question wants to highlight, okay, that this is a shock in the AS or the AD curve. So I will not discuss policy at all. Okay, all we know LM can shift down is because money growth increase, because this axis is pi and 1. Alright, so that tells you, okay, this is due to SRAS actually shift right, because pi E drops, Y increase. So you cannot embark on this question by just reading a few words and then you do trial and error. Okay, so in this case you can see, right, by discussing specifically the root cause, that in the goods and money market, if you want an outcome that tallies the question, a fall in interest rate together with an increase in output, it could only be AS curve shift to the right. So if you pen it down, okay, you will actually get point A, then shifting the AS curve rightwards. So that is what my answer outline discussed. One of the possible causes, right, that you can get such outcome of interest rate falling, output increasing, is your AS curve has shifted down. So this is a positive supply shock. Right? Okay, so in this case, firms readily increase the output. Okay, and AS curve shift from A to B, output goes from Y1 to Y2. To me, this is the only answer because I want both of them to occur. But examiner has another answer, which is not really valid, but it's how you approach the question. Okay? Another approach to the question is you merely focus on interest rate drop. That's what the examiner did. He didn't look at output, he only looked at interest rate. Then he discussed. Okay, you can draw yourself. Same thing, interest rate could drop because LM shift right, as above, like I did with you. Or it could be IS shift left, which I didn't draw, but you can see, if you go to your point A, one way to get interest rate drop is to go to the left. IS shift left. In other words, alright, your AD must also shift left. Okay, so this is due to what we call a demand effect. But however, okay, output will drop. This is examiner's answer. He splitted the question into 3 parts. His starting point is interest rate only. And he discussed how the shift of AS through LM gives you output drop, interest rate drop, should I say, output increase. Then he turned the question around and said, another way interest rate will drop is IS shift left. Alright, and if it is IS that is shifting left, it means AD has shifted left, and therefore output drops. So if you use his method, up to here, statement is false. If you only stop here, statement is true. So some of the exam questions, especially that deals with ADAS model, there are different answers. It's how you approach it. Remember, my approach is I discuss interest rate and income together. He did not. He discussed interest rate first as the trigger point. So in the tutorial answer, I gave you his perspective. Alright? So that's why when you do ADAS question in the exam, don't freak out. Alright? The answer a lot depends on how you sketch your initial shift of the curve. But as long as you write out your assumptions clearly, my assumption is if I want to have a drop in interest rate together with an increase in income, I will tell him it can only occur with LM shift down, AS shift down. Okay, alright, I cannot shift AD at all. Okay, so that is the issue when we do ADAS model for section A. It's going to be quite tricky and time consuming, and you must be very careful. So you have to do 8 questions in the exam. If this is your 8th question, you may not want to do at all. Alright, okay? Hear me clearly, if you have read my revision pointers I posted on Google Drive. To score for A is to get 70. For example, you must get 75 as a guarantee. You can lose 25 marks. You lose 15 marks from section B. Remember section B, I told you every part, every question, you can lose 5 marks. Then 10 marks come from section A. It means you can only do 6 questions and you must get perfect score. That is to get A grade. So nobody finished 8 questions for section A1. Nobody. So if you know you have to do this, you don't have time already, and you know the answer must be complete, then I will not do this question. I will go and finish off my section B, I'm going to perfect it. Or I go back to my remaining 6 questions and write my however. It's all about strategy. So this question you must finish. If you know you cannot finish, telling an uncompleted story is equals to 0. You can't. So you must be very careful. And never do ADAS first. It will kill you. Alright? By now you should know, out of the 8 questions, nobody say you must do in chronological order. Nobody say you must do section A first. You can do section B, Solo's model, question 13. Then go to section A, question 2. All you do is to label your answers. That's all. And I tell my students, take your answer booklet, first 10 pages do section A, page 11 onwards, then do section B. Why not? That's all about strategy. Nobody says you must do in section A first, followed by B. I tell all my students to do in topic order, never in sequencing order. Never. And that tells you, never do ADAS first. It kills you. Because first, you're not sure of the answer. 2, it takes up a lot of time. Okay, so that was question 6. Alright, read through, see why there are different versions of answers. Okay, question 7. This is the tricky one. This is the complicated diagram that we drew. Okay, so I'm not expecting all of you to manage it at this moment, but just to tell you, alright, the very complicated ISLM, ADAS that we keep shifting can come out in a very merciless manner as a 5-mark answer. again, if this comes out, I won't do first. If I'm not competent, I will write as much, but I tell myself I might score a 0. So don't bang your hopes on this kind of analytical model discussion. It will come out, but manage your time well. So the question says, deflation need not be concerned to policy makers because consumers will spend more because price drop, firms will invest more because they expect price to drop. If you choose to do this question, and if you do it wrongly, you will be heavily penalized. You'll be penalized more than 5 months. Because I told you, the examiner can tell whether you know what is inflation. Now, there are students who say the statement is true one, They say, oh, price drop, quantity demanded for goods went up. Price drop, price of machines goes down, firms buy more machines. Statement is true. If you write this kind of trivial answer, prices are just goods and services, right? You will get a deduction of more than 5 marks. He will be ready to fail you the entire paper. You must be careful. Deflation is not Great Singapore Sale. Right? Because you're telling him it's like Great Singapore Sale, buy and see how first. It's wrong. So the discussion, therefore, should be the diagram that you saw just now. Right? So you don't need to draw the diagram on the right if you're not capable, but you start at point A, like what I showed you. Right? Income is Y1 first. Okay? So discuss the LM will shift down because workers adjusted wage and price expectation. You go to point B. But IS will shift to point D. Okay? Because firms, in fact, saw that real interest rate goes up. They are not optimistic, they become more pessimistic. So in this case, you can see, right, from Y1, you went to Y2, or you call it Y star in my lecture notes. You fell into a depression, and then of course, you discuss your monetary policy, LM2 to LM3, to show that, right, you are sticky at point D already. But AD just continue to fall. So much so that IS continue to shift left, right? You hit the liquidity trap and deflation occurs. So hear me clearly, if this is only 5 marks, I don't find it justified to draw the second diagram. Just draw the first diagram will do. Just explain the words. As long as IS shift left, AD will shift left, pi will keep falling until pi is negative will do. Alright, so explain with diagrams the onset, like what we did in lecture. So in this case, will firms and households spend? You already discussed IS shift left because, alright, firms found that real interest rate dropped. Okay, then you discuss household as well. Okay, so if household deem that prices are falling, in fact, they will say, right, where is the key point? The key point is income keeps falling. So they are very pessimistic already. And if prices keeps falling, they rather hold the money. Right, in case things turn worse. So in this case, the consumption increase because of lower price. Answer is no. Consumption drops. Right, and that will actually make the statement false. A deflation is a concern because output keeps falling, consumption keeps falling, investment also drops. Okay, so I leave it to you to read through the details, but highlighting to you, you should prepare that there's a question on this complicated diagram that you drew. But it's only 5 marks. But compare this question with the earlier question, this is still manageable. Because if you end off halfway through, you still get marks from recession into depression, liquidity trap. Whereas the ADAS question, if you don't finish, it's not counted. The story is not completed. Okay, so that was this ADAS question. Then finally, there's a question on sacrifice ratio. They like to ask you, is sacrifice ratio 0 or not? Alright, so in this case, you can see, you discuss whether it's 0 or not. Okay, depends on whether you are rational or you are adaptive. So I've discussed this with you, step 0 to step 4. Okay, so I'm not going to go through, but first, discuss, it's always easy to discuss zero sacrifice ratio first. Explain the 4 steps. Right? Government announce, we set expectation, government execute policy, wages and prices increase the same time by the same amount. So zero sacrifice, then explain how sacrifice ratio can be positive. So I'm not sure, I don't think most of you are ready to do question 8, so I'll leave it to you to read later on. But I just want to remind you, after the prelims, please remember to study sacrifice ratio. And it's not difficult. Okay, it's not difficult, just that the Phillips curve is a little bit distracting for some of you. You find it hard to cope, but you have to push your way through. Okay, so that's a quick overview of tutorial 5, highlighting to you. It's not easy, it's actually very difficult, where you have to display a lot of skills that came from topic 1 to 6. Now, let's look at the long question. There is a reason why I don't give you the answer, because of course I will discuss it in the April revision, but also to show you. This topic for section B is tougher than ISLM Open Economy. Why do I say so? Because in open economy question, A and B is totally predictable. If you recall tutorial 4, question A is always ISLM BP curve, derive them. Question B is always shift IS or LM, discuss BP. Question C, shift BP curve. It's very standard, but if you look at ATAS question, it's not predictable. So you end up not able to prepare at all. You have to react on the spot. And it's not easy. You can see every part you got to draw. So that's why I mentioned, right, whether you want to do ATAS or not, it depends. Look at question 1. Okay? A lot of times students thought they want to do ATAS question when they look at question A. They saw the word sticky wage, they remember the 3 diagrams, and they derived the AS curve. But it's only 6 marks. It's not 20. To decide whether you want to do, you must score 13, not 6. Now you look at part B. Are you confident to do? And in this case, part B wasn't difficult. I taught you in lecture. Wages can change, but now wages change by X%, but it is lesser than prices. Right? It's the same diagram you drew with me in lecture notes, and you will get a flatter AS curve. But this is one that you must have studied. If you didn't study, there's no way you start drawing anything. But to get these 13 marks, yes, it's possible. Okay? Then part C, right, you can have to check. If wages are fully indexed, W over P increase at the same rate, then you know your AS curve would be vertical. Right? Why is it vertical? Because if W and P increase by the same amount, labor demand will change, output don't change. So you have to gauge 6 and 7. You may not get 13 because you make some careless mistake. But if you know part A and B, you can score 10. Part C, you can score another 2 marks. Compare this with open economy. This will take a shorter time. If you think this 12 marks can be earned in 35 minutes, then you should do it. So when you pick question for section B, it's not read through, can do A, can already. It's always about leveraging on your strength and your weakness. And you must tell yourself, out of all your long questions, the 3rd question, part C, usually you cannot finish. Time's up already. Alright, so part C, tell yourself, if you can only do half confidently, you do not know what the rest are talking about, it's a safer bet, probably compared to shift of BP curve. So there's really no right and wrong, but this question, it is manageable. Let me show you question 2. It will blow your mind away. It's very difficult. It's very time-consuming. Again, don't be deceived by part A. If you look at part A, derive the AD curve. All of you will do case effect, like what we did earlier on in section A. 6 marks. But if you look at question B, okay, what it means for a liquidity trap, what happens to LM curve? You have to derive money demand, money supply to get the LM first. Then from the LM with the IS, derive AD. 7 marks. So if you're not strong in money market, you literally get 0 unknowingly. Alright, so in this case, you can see there is no consistent pattern in the type of questionnaire for ADAS. Then part C, you can see the question says, now if there is a fall in inflation expectation, AS curve shift down. But how does it affect the AD? You are applying ADAS model. So I won't go through the answer, but I just want to show you. ADAS, will it come up for section B? Yes. But is it worth attempting? It depends. You have to compare with your consumption topic and your open economy topic. But you never see yourself doing ISLM open economy with ADAS. You will never see that happen. If you do that, that is the worst choice of questions for section B. Alright, hear me clearly, section B, you must do 3 out of 6. But you must study 4 topics. The 4th topic, it's really up to you. You can choose ADAS or open economy. Alright, so we really cannot force it down your throat. But don't think ADAS is easy. It encompasses more analysis. If you ask me if you want to practice, you can practice open economy. You keep practicing, you will get it on. This one, you really can't practice because you do not know what will come out. It will come out positive supply shock. Keep shifting AS, LRAS to the right. If you didn't study, it's a gone case. Alright? So that is the discussion for section B. So that's why I want you to go for prelims, so that you master your you master your Solo's growth model and closed economy and try it out in the prelims. After the prelims, then you master your 3rd and 4th topic for section B. If you don't want to go for prelims, straight away the first time in your exam, you write out all the 3 topics, you can never finish your paper. You get a shock out of your life, what kind of trash and mess that you wrote. So just go for the prelims. Alright, no matter how he marks, at least you know how prepared you are for Solo's growth and closed economy. Okay, so I'm not giving you this answer. I want you to revise them during your March-April session. When I see you for lecture revision 1, then I will go through this with you, when you are better prepared on this topic. Okay, so with that, now let's look at the last topic, stabilization policy.